Did you know on IMDb her trademark is blonde hair and blue eyes? It's like that's not a trademark.
What?
That's just how she looks.
That's her face.
Did you know she went to the same high school as Snoop Dogg at the same time?
Wow, no, I did not know.
Shut up.
Hello, you are listening to Off Radar, It's a Movie podcast. I'm James Smith, a professional film and video editor.
I'm James Eatock, a freelance writer and illustrator specialising in 1980s cartoons.
And I'm Neil Brock, aka Nige, the man with two names, former film journalist and currently working in the games industry.
Each week, one of us picks a movie that all three of us either haven't seen in many years or in some cases haven't seen at all.
We each watch the chosen movie, return to the microphone and let you all know exactly what we thought of it.
He desperately needs her to survive.
It sort of handled some incredibly delicate topics incredibly well.
I will never watch this again. What was that?
If you fancy joining in and suggesting a movie for us to watch, why not tweet us at Off Radar Podcast
or email us on offradarpod@gmail.com.
If you like what you hear, please subscribe, share, and by all means, leave a review.
For now, strap in, turn the volume up, and let's go Off Radar.
I'm James Smith. Hello.
Let me just go and change my shirt. All right. Hello, welcome to the Cameron Diaz podcast.
And I'm James Smith. That's James Eatock talking.
Hello.
And
oh wait, is this intro?
Yeah, it is. And there's also Neil Brock.
Hello.
Who we call Nige.
Also, hello.
So today we are, well, if you haven't listened to these before, every now and again we discuss an actor, an actress, a director or writer maybe. We discuss their films, what we think of them and their life and career. And today we are talking about Cameron Diaz. Cameron Diaz, so she was born in San Diego.
Don't mind me asking, whereabouts in San Diego was she born? Just have interest. No, I'm being serious because I've been to San Diego numerous times. I'd be very interested.
Well, surely you should know. Come on, if you've been there.
I don't know. I mean, when you drive into San Diego, it does say "Welcome to
Cameron Diaz
San
town."
Diego. Yeah.
No, I don't think that anyone's gone specific enough. Although she did go to Los Cerritos Elementary School, so Long Beach around there was where she was raised.
She's born and raised. Okay. She's now 50.
Just
actually.
raised.
Is she now 50? My God. Wow.
August 30th was her birthday.
Her breakthrough film, it was The Mask. So, just quickly...
Nuts.
Which we discussed during the Jim Carrey podcast.
So we've recently done a Jim Carrey one. But yeah, it's crazy that The Mask was her breakthrough. She was 21 in this film.
Bloody hell, really?
And... she played this leggy, blonde, beautiful woman, which I guess when you look at the rest of her career is, not always what she went on to play. She's played a lot of different roles, but Diaz in that film was a really genius bit of breakthrough casting.
You know, it sort of looks like a young woman riding bareback. Sort of a Lady Godiva or something. Of course. What do you see, Mr. Ipkiss?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think she sort of came from a modelling background. I mean, I think no one can deny that Cameron Diaz is beautiful. And I think part of the reason why she was sort of so well revered for that film was because obviously she was playing against a green-faced man in a yellow suit. It's quite easy in that situation to become background, but she had enough about her to stand out. And I think ever since that film in her career, she's taken a lot of twists and turns in terms of roles, but her beauty very rarely, I would say, has been something where she's sort of hidden away from that. I think maybe the best examples like being John Malkovich, where she plays someone a bit like dowdy, sort of brunette, completely against sort of what you expect when you see Cameron Diaz. But I think certainly at the start of her career, she was kind of known as being that kind of person who plays those sort of roles. So I think she's playing strippers in Feeling Minnesota, which was one of her earlier films. In There's Something About Mary, she was the perfect girl next door, that everyone wanted to sort of grow up with and fall in love with. And then as she got older, I think the demographic, the type of role she was taking on changed a bit, really. And it became a bit more kind of like stern roles where she was maybe playing a lawyer or playing someone who was in sort of a situation where there was much harder decisions, and maybe she'd lost her way in the sense of not doing those kind of classic, oh, we'll just throw a random attractive woman in there. They actually needed to be characters with real substance and real sort of challenging situations within the films.
I saw The Mask at the cinema. When she's on screen, you're just like, oh my goodness, and she's stunning, and like you say, it's an amazing. It takes a certain caliber of person to be able to stay in the same scene as Jim Carrey and not be thrown into the background. And yes, a lot of that had to do with how striking she is in the film, like ridiculously striking, very sultry, very leggy. But the costume and everything, that first appearance, that first shot, you never forget when you see Cameron Diaz, where she's like looking over her shoulder, and it's the first shot you see of her in the movie. And I think Jim Carrey's like Mask does all the kind of comedic Tex Avery animation effects. But I remember, like, my first note I wrote is that you would think this would be her defining role, as in going forward she's always going to play, like Nige kind of talked about, that kind of pretty blonde in a film. It's like, oh, here's Cameron Diaz, she plays pretty blonde woman, etc., etc. But I would argue as early as There's Something About Mary she changes, because she goes straight into a Farrelly Brothers movie, and prior to that, the year before, they'd done Kingpin. So you know that if you're a man or woman going into a Farrelly Brothers movie, you got to do some crazy shit. And let's be honest, like, one of the most defining memories of cinema in the 1990s was an image of her with sperm in her hair, with, you know, when she's got it spiked up.
Still is.
Yeah, Ben Stiller's.
What is that? On your ear.
Ear?
No, your left ear. Is that a hair gel?
Yeah.
Great. I could use
No, you don't have to. You don't.
I just ran out.
That's one thing I've always liked about her, is you see her in The Mask and you can easily presume the kind of person or actress she is. Oh, she's beautiful, she relies on that. A couple of years after that, like I say, she's in There's Something About Mary, completely setting herself up, you know, to be laughed at and stuff. And I remember, like, one of the earliest things I saw about, she was on, like, this is going back many, many years. I think it might have been around the time of There's Something About Mary. And she was interviewed on, I think it was like the MTV Movie Awards, when they used to do that. If they still do it, I don't know. But she was accepting an award and she wasn't in person, right? So she'd done a pre-recorded thing. Or, like, maybe it was live, I don't know. And this showed me kind of like the kind of person she was, because I don't know, I may have misread this over the years, or maybe I read something wrong, but I think she suffered with certain skin irritations.
That's right.
Years, maybe like eczema and stuff. And she was on camera at the MTV Movie Awards, accepting an award, and her face was kind of blotchy and she didn't have any makeup on. I mean, obviously she's one of these people that has very natural beauty. But I remember thinking, you are able to do this, and it means you are very comfortable with who you are. Like, don't get me wrong, we all go through certain things in our lives, like, you know, issues and stuff and confidence. But the fact that she wasn't all dolled up with, you know, makeup plastered on her, and it was a very different person to what we'd seen in The Mask, and even There's Something About Mary. And I just remember thinking, that's someone who is able, she's got no airs and graces, that's the best way to put it. I think she can be her. And I think as time went on and she got into the more comedic roles, like the Charlie's Angels movies, again, yeah, that's relying on a very striking look, a certain aesthetic, and she's a very beautiful blonde woman. But in those roles, again, she's kind of taken the piss out of herself, and that's what I've always liked. And like Nige, one of my favourite roles of hers in terms of appearance, I remember seeing the advertising for it, and being John Malkovich. I remember, like, looking at press photos of John Cusack and John Malkovich, and then not even remotely recognising Cameron Diaz, because she had the big brown hair, the black or dark contact lenses in to mask her beautiful blue eyes. And it was just so fascinating that someone, I wrote in my kind of notes for her, she's very much a chameleon actress. Like, she can go into different roles. And that's what I've always liked about her. I like the fact she's never really taken herself too serious. No role is too good for her.
Do you think that it's kind of weird that John Malkovich has a portal? I mean, do you think that it might have some sort of significance?
For me, like, I know some people don't necessarily love that film, but I personally do. And the fact that her casting is and even John Cusack, to be fair, it's so crazy that you would put those two in that film, because when you think about how odd that film is, but, you know, like you said, the big frizzy hair, and you're making a very beautiful person look not very beautiful, but almost her personality in this film as well is very different to There's Something About Mary, very different to The Mask.
There's no such thing as a hole in somebody's brain.
Yes, there is.
Just after There's Something About Mary, she did Very Bad Things.
That's a weird film.
It's a very weird film. So it starts off like Swingers or something, very and it takes very dark turn. But even her role in that, she's got this kind of, she's really annoying and very like, to begin with,
spiteful,
quite a spiteful, annoying character. So it's a little bit of There's Something About Mary, but not as comedic, not as fun. So you don't really like her very much in this film.
I expect more from you.
Yeah, okay, what? You expect more what?
You are going to be hung over for 3 days, like those guys on Oprah who get drunk and have disgusting sex with prostitutes, and then they go ahead and they just say their vows. They say their vows with the stench of cheap hotel whore sex all over.
It's absurd. Listen to yourself. It's not vile.
I've seen it on television.
I'm not going to marry you with the cheap smell of hotel whore sex.
I am not to be common, Kyle, okay? I am a creature like no other. I know that. I am a creature like no other, and I will not be common. Do you understand me? Is that too much to ask, Kyle? Is it too much to ask?
You won't be common.
And I think the danger with her career after The Mask is she could have become a very safe kind of actress.
One of her own quotes is, "Your regrets aren't what you did, but what you didn't do, so I take every opportunity." And I think she's shown by her choice in films where she's gone out there, she's done things that are different.
And then after Malkovich, another one of my favourite films that she has been in, she teamed up with Tom Cruise in Vanilla Sky.
I didn't know you liked that film.
I watched that yesterday, in fact, in preparation for this.
I really like it.
And
I really, really liked it.
Do you like it, Nige?
It's not aged very well. I didn't realise at the time it was a remake of Open Your Eyes, like a Spanish film with Penelope Cruz. But again, her character in that, and I think it's something she did a lot more as her career went on. Like, she plays someone who's slightly unhinged, a lot harsher perhaps than kind of, when you think Cameron Diaz, you almost think to an extent like this kind of, as you said, like that Mask type character, or like bubbly Something About Mary. But I think...
or even like Charlie's Angels.
Right?
That
exactly.
Kind of,
but I think there's quite a few films, if you look at her kind of like back catalogue, so to speak, where she does play someone a bit stern or a bit crazy or a little bit more unhinged, and especially in this, like especially in Vanilla Sky.
Just slow down. I want you to stop the car, Julie. I want you to stop the car!
Don't you know that when you sleep with someone, your body makes a promise whether you do or not? Tell me something, David. I mean, do you believe in God?
All three of those, I think, you know, are very good in it. But yeah, she kind of, her different, like, she's almost different characters in this one film, different versions of what she's already played before, which is very clever. But she's really annoying, she's very confident, but then she's also really insecure, and a very good bit of casting. But she's an actress that can pop up in a film, and she never necessarily steals a scene like you said with The Mask, but she has a screen presence.
I've always found her charming as hell. Like, she's so kind of just someone. It sounds weird. It's just like, I'd love to have a drink with her, and not in like I'm going on another James Eatock date, but as in you just feel that you just get what you see is what you get, if you know what I mean. Like, when you see her in interviews, she never takes herself seriously. I mentioned before the MTV movie awards where she was on that, and it was just like, this is someone that's like, I'm going to appear to millions of people. I don't care. Yeah, this is what I look like, and it's rather than I'm the girl from The Mask, and it's that ability. I find her very genuine. I think that translates into a lot of her roles where she just comes across one. You said about her in being John Malkovich. The reason she's cast in that isn't because let's disguise her, and it's because she's a bloody good actress.
Yeah.
It's like we feel that she can play this role, and I think she's had a few misfires in her career,
yes.
like every bloody actor, up and down, every actor that we could ever talk about, every actor and actress. But for the most part, a lot of her appearances, I've always found there's a film she was in that I saw, decades. Well, when it first came out, Any Given Sunday with
Oliver Stone, Al Pacino, yeah.
Al Pacino.
She plays another kind of like businesswoman type thing. She's like a stern ball. She's like the daughter who owns the team. I think she then takes it over, and there's a bit of a trope in like sports movies, like even in Major League, where like the wife or the daughter takes over the team, and it's the classic. Oh, they don't know anything about sport. Yeah. And her character clearly does understand business. She clearly does understand sport,
yes.
And she's more of like a ball breaker, which for Cameron Diaz was a bit of a change in sort of the direction of the role she was taking. I think it showed she can do that type of thing where she isn't necessarily, as we kind of discussed, the girl next door or the bombshell.
From what I remember of Any Given Sunday, you're acting opposite Pacino, but also a group of
LL Cool J, Jamie
high
Foxx,
testosterone men,
James Woods as well.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's just like a bunch of men, and yet she, like so many of her appearances, holds her own, and it's I think that's like a testament to her as an actress, but also as a screen presence and as a person.
You could probably say similar in Gangs of New York. She's kind of in that film against big stars, Daniel Day-Lewis, Leonardo DiCaprio, all very. It's a Scorsese film. It's a blokey film, but quite similar. Like, weirdly, probably not one of my favourite performances of hers in that film, but I could still.
It's the action.
She got lambasted for that. Let's be honest. Like, it's her, like Keanu in blooming Dracula. It did not land.
Go back to the point and leave me to my business, or I will open your throat. So help me God.
I haven't seen Gangs of New York in a long time. It's a Scorsese movie, so by rights of this podcast, I should enjoy it. But yeah, I'd say for the most part, like any good actor or actress, she's had more hits than.
I disagree with that, but that's another story.
Oh, really?
Man. The last 20 years has been.
Well, no, you say the last 20 years. She checked out in 2014, didn't she? To my knowledge, she kind of.
Yes. Well, so basically, she took a break from acting. Her last official film
was Annie.
Yeah. So she was Annie, and then she's now filming again. So basically, she had a kid. She took a break from acting.
She married the lead singer of Good Charlotte, if you remember that band. Good Charlotte. They're like a punky rock type band from probably from the late 90s, early 90s.
Oh wow!
So she's back in action now with Jamie Foxx, but she's not been in anything for 10 years.
It's funny you speak about Jamie Foxx. Like, she's got this kind of a career arc where if she works with someone, quite often she will work with them again. So like Charlie's Angels, for instance, she came back and did the sequel. Tom Cruise in Vanilla Sky, she had like a little cameo in Minority Report, and then a few years back they did Night and Day together. I think there's clearly that thing of if you work with Cameron Diaz, it's generally good things, albeit it didn't work out with Scorsese. But going back to some of Etok's points about you'd love to kind of go out on a date or have a drink with her or whatever. She sort of quoted herself that she grew up with a lot of boys. She's probably got more testosterone than sort of most women. It's that kind of vibe you get about her. She'd be fun to be around. She kind of gets it. She's just that sort of relatable person, I guess. Even though she's, again, like a bombshell, she's relatable, she's funny, she can turn her hand to different things. And I think even by her personal life, she was with, I think, Matt Dillon around that period where she made There's Something About Mary. She was with Justin Timberlake for a while.
Oh, I forgot all about
Jared
that.
Leto for a bit, and then she heard about Mr. Nobody and ran away. She had that kind of that era of just she was everything in Hollywood. She was the biggest female star, I think, other than Julia Roberts. I think at that point of her career, she was paid more than anyone else. So she really hit the heights. And then, as you said, recently, Smith, she's taken a choice from herself to say, you know what, I'm going to step away because if you look at films from about 2001, it's a real mixed bag, I would say. Like, there was like In Your Shoes, The Holiday, which were a bit more sort of aimed at sort of women type films. I wouldn't go as far as to call them chick flicks, but they were certainly aimed at that demographic.
God, I think I might have seen The Holiday.
You've said about it on the Christmas episode last year, I think, Nige. I think you.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. We watched it again, actually. Like, I think during COVID, because I don't think Helen, my partner, had seen it, and yeah, I wasn't as a particularly big fan the second time either. But there was also she did My Sister's Keeper, where she like plays this lawyer where her daughter sues her because she doesn't want her body to be used for like medical to help treat her sister who's got cancer. So it's this kind of like really trying to be this sort of drama, family based. But again, she's still just Cameron Diaz, but she just sort of stomps around the film without that much purpose. And then similar, like Bad Teacher as well. There was a big run, I would say, of films that were just quite forgettable.
There was a film, a thriller, a kind of thriller horror that she was in that I watched a few years ago called The Box. And if you look at the poster...
Oh, with what's his face in Frank Langella?
Yes, he is in that. Yeah,
and James Marsden, Cyclops from X-Men.
And that was a really unexpected, film and performance. But she's plastered all over the poster. It's her, and it was quite nice to see her as the leading role in that. But I wouldn't say it's a great film, but she's always pretty convincing in it. It's quite a watchable film.
Mrs. Lewis, I assume you received the box.
I'd have an offer to make. If you push the button, two things will happen. First, someone somewhere in the world whom you don't know will die. Second, you will receive a payment of $1 million.
I would bet you now, if we went away and looked at all of our IMDb ratings for films since about that period,
they'd be low.
You'd struggle to find one above 7.
Yeah.
So
I think there's a real mixed bag of films, and there's quite a lot that I've written down that I like, but actually there's a lot on here that I've not seen, probably for good reason.
I'm amazed Detox not mentioned The Green Hornet as well, so that was kind of like her turn.
Oh wait, I watched that with you, Nige, didn't I? Remember we sat down in your bedroom, you made me take my clothes off, and then we sat...
That was the most
was always the thing
about it then, clearly. So.
But yeah, no, I remember you and I watching that because we were laughing at some of the off-camera dialogue in that movie. Like, it was Seth Rogen. He would do the odd thing off mic, and you and I were killing ourselves about it. But yeah, I forgot. Like, I remember Christoph Waltz is in that. I completely forgot she was in that. Or in fairness, even that movie existed, which is really bizarre because obviously it's directed by Michel Gondry, isn't it?
Is that Michel Gondry? Wow.
Yeah, Green Hornet. Unless I'm mistaken.
I've completely forgotten that as well.
Yeah. I remember, because he does a few of his kind of Michel Gondry kind of look at me repeating the same image across, and yeah, good stuff.
There's one bit of interesting James Smith trivia for you here.
Whoa, hang on. James Smith trivia.
I know,
Nige.
that doesn't normally happen. But I'm sure Nige's got trivia as well. We did James Eatock trivia in an episode once.
Yeah. I'm just like shocked. We said,
this is just one thing I was when I was reading about her. It was pretty kind of mind blowing. As of 2018, the US domestic box office grosses of Diaz's films total over $3 billion US, with worldwide grossing surpassing $7 billion, making her the 5th highest grossing US domestic box office actress ever.
It's pretty good going.
Which I found like wow, but then I guess when you think about kind of box office actresses,
Julia Roberts has to be.
No, I was going to say what's fascinating about that, and unless my brain's gone, she hasn't done any Marvel films, so you can't even use that as a. Oh, that's why she's. You know what I mean? So the film she's been in, equating that is more impressive, because you could say an actor like Robert Downey Jr. He's been in all those Marvel films, so his box office gross is probably like $1 trillion or something.
Well, even when you look at her films, you wouldn't say any are like massive
Shrek
blockbusters.
Made tons of money.
Yeah, the Shrek.
And even the first Charlie's Angels. Now, I saw that in the cinema when I was at college.
Was that a big box office?
Well, I went to watch that and just thought this is going to be absolute garbage. And I actually really enjoyed it. I've never watched it since because I don't want to kind of ruin that memory. Like, Bill Murray was in it. I think Sam Rockwell in it.
Crispin Glover.
Yeah, it's just a bit bonkers. I never watched the second one, but I have good memories memories of the first Charlie's Angels.
Hey, Pete, how are you?
I'm good. I just.
Could you hold on a second? It's just been kind of crazy this week at work.
Cameron Diaz.
I'm like a virgin, you know? I mean, it's my first time. Here.
When you look at the cast of that film, you've almost got like Lucy Liu playing the straight person, like, you know, very, you know, not really a comedic actress. You got Drew Barrymore, who's just like ridiculous sex appeal, but Cameron Diaz is the comedic one in that film, and yeah, it's three incredibly beautiful women, and it's so wonderfully cast. And Cameron Diaz in the Charlie's Angels films is just, again, poking fun at herself. Yes, I'm hot, look at my blue eyes and my long legs, and, you know, etc., etc., but here's me goofing off and stuff. And you know, again, that's why I really like her presence in a lot of movies. In defense of my earlier statement about a lot of her movies have done well, maybe I should revise that in the sense of a lot of the movies that she's been in that have done well are big movies. There we go.
Yeah. The one film that looks like, for me, like is kind of missing from her CV is like a real serious drama, unless I've just not seen one.
Well, a good one as well. She might have done one, but not a good one. So.
Yeah, exactly. Like a real testing her kind of acting on that level, because we know she can do comedy well. We know she can do, you know, like that quirky kind of different role, but. Yeah, I'm not seen. I can't think of a film where I've seen her and gone, wow, she blew me away in that.
No, I think that maybe the sort of part of her career that she struggled a bit with, and I think like if we compare this with a male actor like who came through as like, oh, a really good looking person in a film, like what sort of career would they necessarily have after that? Women in cinema are judged on a completely different scale, whether we like it or not. So yeah, and I think quite a lot of them, I imagine, do the sort of thing where they just want to make another film. They just want to keep going. And when we all know that when women get into their 30s and 40s, the roles, the opportunities dry up. If you look at the number of scripts there are that actually have meaningful roles where you're not like the wife or the mother, rather than someone who's actually driving the story forward. I imagine part of the reason why she took a step back was because of the lack of decent opportunities. So
quite possibly, yeah.
It's a good point. And also, if you look at, you know, women in roles in general, there's not many that are leading roles. It's quite often supporting. Even with her films, you know, a lot of the films we've mentioned, she's not the star of, whereas someone like Leo or Tom Cruise or you know, a lot of male actors seem to get those big leading roles, and you know, it's only over the last, you know, few years that we've seen like women in cinema have. But
again, I'll take it back in terms of praising Cameron Diaz, is that you go back and look at her movies, and as we've talked about, you know, you remember her in The Mask, you remember her greatly in There's Something About Mary, you remember in all these films because, again, her screen presence and her kind of charm leaps from the screen. So yeah, it's I think that's a testament to her as an actress and as a person. It's not an easy thing to be in a film, and you know, whether you're a supporting role or not, like, be remembered.
So what do you guys, what's your favourite performance of hers that you've seen?
I would say probably her character in Vanilla Sky, because it is such a kind of tragically torn and twisted character that it's probably the closest to a serious dramatic role she had. Like you were talking about earlier, Smith, saying like she hasn't done that real drama, and I think the Vanilla Sky is probably the closest she came. And granted, she's not the biggest presence in that movie, but I think for me she was always one of the most memorable coming away from that film. So I'd say that's probably my favourite Diaz performance. But then it's a toss up between that and, you know, being John Malkovich. I love her in that because she's so different. But yeah, I would say that.
You are not Sophia.
I'm Sophia.
Whatever.
Okay, we're gonna be together again. You're gonna forget about Juliana, and we're gonna be together. I'm not gonna be afraid of you anymore.
I think there's something about Mary. She absolutely nailed it. Like, perfect time, perfect casting. I think she got nominated for a Golden Globe for it as well. I think that film's hilarious. I was reading an article about it saying it's not aged that well in terms of some of the jokes that perhaps you wouldn't get away with now, but I think that's the case with all comedies if you go back over time.
Oh God, that's
it's like the case with anything.
Yeah, exactly. I do think she was so unbelievably perfect in that. I think anyone who saw that film almost fell in love with her. Like, she was so good. And yeah, it is a bit of a shame that perhaps there's not been those kind of roles where she's had an opportunity, or maybe she's not got the range to do that kind of thing, and she knows that. Like that sort of the balance. I think she's hosted like Saturday Night Live 4 times. There's always been that element of like the comedy side, and I think she plays it quite straight in some ways, and there's something about Mary, but absolutely nails it.
I agree, actually. I think in general, comedy is often overlooked in a performance. Just because it's a comedy, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not a very good performance. And I feel like she makes that film, especially supporting someone like Ben Stiller, who, you know, she's funny in it, but you're right, she is quite subtle at times, and natural, and then it's still completely over the top and, you know, a silly and funny film. So yeah, I agree. I would say that's probably my favourite performance of hers as well.
I'm tired of talking about stalkers. Let's talk about you.
Are you okay? Yeah? Do you want some water?
No, I'm good.
What's your favourite film then? We've discussed a few. I think we've kind of all talked about very similar films. So yeah, but what would you say is your favourite Diaz film?
Well, my favourite film she's been in is going back to what your favourite performance is. So it's kind of weird in that sense. So mine is There's Something About Mary. I think it's a bloody great movie. I'd love to go. Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched it in years, and like Nige said, yeah, there's probably so many jokes in it that don't age well. But as you said, Smith, that's like pretty much every form of entertainment ever over the last, well, up until whenever people decide that this is the new thing that they don't want to have in society anymore. But yeah, so my favourite film of hers is There's Something About Mary. I just think it's such an entertaining film, and yeah, like you guys said, for her performance is fantastic in it.
I think mine is probably, I mean, Something About Mary obviously is a great film. I think mine.
You're going to say Vanilla Sky, aren't you?
No, I'm actually going to say probably Being John Malkovich. I think for me that film is so crazy and surreal. Yeah. You know, you enter a portal into John Malkovich's mind. I mean, whoever put that down on paper and presented it to someone, and they then go, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Obviously, Charlie Kaufman, a bit of fan of his writing.
Who directed was that?
Spike Jonze.
That's Spike Jonze. Yeah,
Spike Jonze, yeah.
And you know, she is so good in that, but as is John Cusack, and for me it just kind of hits the spot. It's a very surreal film, and I can imagine some people not liking that film, and I kind of get why they don't, but just the mentalness of that film, and kind of being transported into Malkovich's mind, I can't help but like rewatch that film again and again, and always quite enjoy it.
What is going on? Huh? I discovered that portal. It's my head!
How about you, Nige? What's your favourite Diaz film that she's been in?
It's interesting you talking about Malkovich. Like, she said herself, like in Hollywood it says there's 14 different types of scripts, so be it like the rom-com or this kind of like sad someone's dying drama, etc., etc. She said that Malkovich was the 15th script. It was so out there, like nothing anyone else had read before. And it probably is that for me, but just for the sake of it, let's picking out a couple of different films. I mean, I really did enjoy Charlie's Angels, that one view. I think we haven't mentioned Life Less Ordinary as well, which Danny Boyle film with Ewan McGregor. Yeah. I always had a really soft spot for that film, be it the track by Ash, which obviously shows my age in terms of the 90s, and that was a little bit quirky as well, and involved like angels and Delroy Lindo and Holly Hunter and stuff. I quite enjoyed that, but if I said any other film but Malkovich, I'd probably be lying. So yeah, go around the houses and just fall back there in the end. Cameron Diaz has never been the type of actress that has been praised for her acting ability in the sense of lots of critical praise, a lot of awards, but she has got a soft spot in a lot of people's sort of minds and hearts in the sense of some of the roles she's portrayed in the past. And I think everyone kind of wills her to do good stuff, but the fact she has taken a break and she may not see acting as a primary thing. I know she does a lot of activism. She's very concerned about the environment. Maybe that's like the second part of her life. That's what she'll choose to do, and sort of fair play to her.
You've had a career in Hollywood for 20 years. It's pretty safe to say that you're probably financially okay. So you can have the life you want. Some people, like obviously Tom Cruise, could have retired probably in the early 90s and be like, I'm fine for the rest of my life. But Tom Cruise is a bit cray-cray. He's like, I'm just going to keep making films. And I, for one, am thankful that he does. But yeah, like Diaz, like you say, Nige, maybe this is the next chapter of her life. Maybe she'll come back, do the odd film here and there if the script takes her fancy, which should be anybody's right choice. I mean, she's probably at that stage in her career now where
she could take different roles and different films. I guess the great thing with acting in general is that, like as you get older, like we've seen with, like you said, Bill Murray, for instance, like you evolve and the film choices you take become different. But
like Nige said, the only problem is for a female in Hollywood, it's a very different story. It's like the older you get, the roles become...
You're playing the mum, the granny. Yeah,
it does become narrow.
You're right.
But there are some great people out there, like the likes of like Reese Witherspoon. I know they're setting up their own production companies. They're looking to have specifically female directors, female written scripts. Like, let's make Hollywood less of this like testosterone bath of men, the Jerry Bruckheimers and stuff like that.
Well, I think not to get into a whole thing, but after the whole Harvey Weinstein thing, I think it's like, maybe let's take a little bit more control so we can, avoid that kind of shit
definitely.
Again.
There's a really nice quote again I found here, like from again going way back with Cameron Diaz when she did The Mask. She said, I didn't realise The Mask was a fairly large film that I was part of. Halfway through it I was going, is there any place where like my mum and dad can see this film? And the crew were like going, Cameron, at the theatres. And she was like, I have no idea. I'm blonde, I'm allowed. And the fact she was like, I can come out and say this, she doesn't care that much, I think, about what people think of her. She's comfortable in her own skin. Like she just, like, for want of a better expression, she just seems really sound, and I think fair play to her. And I hope whatever she's doing at the moment, I hope she's happy. I hope this film she does with Jamie Foxx, again, someone else she's worked with in the past, Any Given Sunday, which shows that people love to work with her. I hope it does well. So fingers crossed. Yeah,
and Cameron, you're welcome to come for a drink with us three, or join us on the podcast if you want to. Because
if you're listening, good work.
I do have a random bit of trivia as well about Cameron Diaz, which again could have changed her career entirely. She was actually cast as Sonya Blade from the Mortal Kombat film in 1995, the one starring Christopher Lambert. But she was cast as Sonya Blade, but she broke her wrist during karate training beforehand. So the role instead went to Bridget Wilson Sampras, Pete Sampras's wife, who did it instead. So, so there you go, who was also an actress. Pete Sampras's wife. So there you go. How random. So it could have been different.
No wonder that film was so bad.
That's so random.
That can be the ending.
God for that.
And guys, what do you think of Cameron Diaz? Email us on offradarpod@gmail.com.
I thought we did this already.
Tweet us at offradarpodcast. I think you interrupted me. Or find us on Facebook and let us know what you think about Cameron Diaz's films.